I caught my wife cheating with our pastor on Easter Sunday, so I shared the pics on the church leadership private Facebook group page. My wife and I have always been committed to our church. We're those people who show up every week, sit in the same pew, and take part in all the church activities. We even volunteered for the children's ministry and hosted Bible studies at our house. Our pastor was a genuinely kind and thoughtful man who always went out of his way to make us feel welcome. He'd been our pastor for years, and we thought we knew him well. But lately, things started to feel a little off. It began when the pastor started paying a bit more attention to my wife than usual. Now, I'm not a jealous guy by any means, but something about the way he looked at her and how they interacted started to raise some red flags. I brushed it off as paranoia, and life went on. That is, until my wife told me she wanted to seek some counseling for some personal issues she was dealing with. She said she'd be meeting with the pastor and his wife for these counseling sessions, which made sense to me. They were both well-respected members of the church and had counseled others before. I thought nothing of it, and in fact, I was glad she was seeking help. Weeks went by, and she'd go to these sessions, coming home more at ease and seemingly happier. One day, though, I happened to run into the pastor's wife at the grocery store. We chatted for a bit, and I casually mentioned how grateful I was for the counseling sessions she was providing for my wife. She looked at me, puzzled, and said, "I haven't been counseling your wife. She's been meeting with my husband privately." You can imagine the alarm bells that went off in my head. I thanked her, managed a strained smile, and left the store, my mind racing. That's when the pieces started to fall into place, and I couldn't ignore my gut feeling any longer. Fast forward to Easter Sunday. Our church was having a morning service only, and my wife mentioned that she wanted to go to a special ladies' prayer meeting afterward. I didn't think much of it, but something in the back of my mind nagged at me. On a whim, I checked the church's website and the bulletin from that morning's service. No mention of a prayer meeting. The gears in my head started turning, and I decided I needed to know what was going on. So I told my wife that we should drive to church separately and that I had some errands to run after service, and that I'd meet her at home later. Instead, I drove around for long enough for everyone else to be gone and then headed straight back to the church, hoping to catch a glimpse of what was actually happening. I knew that there was a side door to the church that was often left unlocked, so I parked around the corner and cautiously approached it. To my surprise, the door was unlocked, just as I had hoped. I quietly slipped inside and made my way through the dimly lit halls, heart pounding in my chest. I knew where the pastor's office was, and I crept toward it, praying that I was wrong about my suspicions. As I got closer, I heard muffled voices and some other sounds. My heart sank, and I felt like I was going to be sick. I approached the door, which was slightly ajar, and what I saw confirmed my worst fears. There, in the pastor's office, were my wife and the pastor in a very intimate and compromising position. I couldn't believe it. I was shaking with a mixture of rage, heartbreak, and disbelief. But then, a sense of resolve washed over me. I knew that I needed to expose them for what they were. I quickly took out my phone, snapped a picture of the pair, making sure their faces were clearly visible, and without them even noticing me. I backed away from the door, trying to contain my anger, and immediately started composing a text. I sent the incriminating picture to the elders of the church, the pastor's wife, and even made a post on the leadership Facebook private group, which included the entire church staff and key volunteers. I wanted to make sure that everyone who needed to know would see it, and that there would be no hiding from the truth. I didn't stick around to confront them. I was too hurt, too furious, and I knew that I needed to get out of there before I did something I'd regret. I wanted to punch his teeth out, but I also didn't want to go to jail over a wife who was clearly a piece of garbage at his point. So I just drove around aimlessly for a while, my thoughts a whirlwind of emotions, until my phone started blowing up with messages and calls. The fallout was immense. The church was in shock, and everyone was talking about it. The pastor's wife left him, the elders demanded his resignation, and my wife. Well, let's just say that our marriage was irreparably broken and I filed for divorce almost immediately. It wasn't easy, but I managed to pick up the pieces of my life and move forward. I found a new church, made new friends, and eventually started dating again. My ex-wife and the former pastor, on the other hand, were ostracized by the community, and as far as I know, they're still together. Looking back on it now, I'm proud that I exposed the truth. I took a stand against hypocrisy and deceit, and in doing so, I helped to protect others from being hurt by these two individuals. It was a painful experience, but in the end, I know that I did the right thing. So there you have it, folks, the story of how I caught my wife cheating with our pastor on Easter Sunday. It's totally messed up, and I wouldn't wish this experience on anyone. But at the same time, I'm grateful for the strength and resilience I found within myself, and the new life I was able to build afterward. Thanks for reading my story. I hope it serves as a reminder that even in our darkest moments, we have the power to stand up for what's right and make a difference. And if you ever find yourself in a similar situation, remember, trust your gut, and don't be afraid to expose the truth. I believe they call those guys pastors. Anyway, what do you think of all of this? Let us know in the comments section below. When you subscribe, be sure to click the notification bell. Click here for more Tangled threads.